Hello and welcome to Fueling Around with me, Jason Plato, and a sinkhole in our relationship. It's Dave Vitty.
Fueling Around is powered by Adrian Flux. As UK's largest specialist insurance broker, Adrian Flux will tailor a quote to your exact needs and help save you money on your car, your bike, or even your home insurance.
Don't forget to press subscribe on YouTube so that you'll never miss an episode, or press the follow button on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts from. Dave, how are you, mate?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you? You're looking resplendent as always.
Yes, I am. You know, the sun has arrived. Summer's on its way. That's all pretty cool.
It must be gin and tonic o'clock in your house, isn't it?
What time is it now? Oh, it is, yes. It is
yes,
5 o'clock.
Absolutely.
Good
Yeah,
Lord.
it really is. It really is. Well, anyway, Listen, I'm excited today because we have a special guest for whom we have a lot of questions, and we need a lot of answers. And I think the sooner that we get into this, the better.
We certainly do. Now, our special guest today, I mean, there's so many adjectives you could come up with. I mean, he's an inventor, he's an engineer, an author, an adventurer, a real-life Inspector Gadget, no less, and quite simply a YouTube phenomenon. It is, of course, the one and only, the fruitcake that is, Mr. Colin Furze. Hi, Colin.
I quite like being introduced as a fruitcake.
Well, do you know what? I'm always referred to as an HFFC, which is a high-functioning fruitcake, and I think you are too.
They are. I bow to you then, Jason. It's like the leader of our clan.
Absolutely. What have I let myself in for with you two for the next hour or so? But anyway, Colin, thank you so much for joining us today. It is a pleasure to have you on. We've got many, many questions for you, as I alluded to before, and I'm not entirely sure where to start, to be totally honest. But there have been many projects over the years, but the biggie recently, as those fans of your YouTube channel will testify, has been the building of the underground bunker and the tunnel and the underground garage at your home in Lincolnshire. First of all, where are we with all of that?
So, there is a new update coming out on Thursday. It is now covered, so I actually have my drive back. It's not got its finished surface on it yet, but I can drive onto it, and it's kind of... and not crash into a massive hole or get stuck on some rebar or whatever. And it's kind of weird because it's like... It sounds like the most simplest of thing, because anyone who's got a drive to just drive on it, you'll take it for granted. But I've not had one for like a year and a half, 18 months now, and it's just been a tarpaulin covered in water and mess and stuff like that. So it's like a massive relief to be able to have something flat outside my front door.
So, I mean, it's clearly obvious watching your stuff on YouTube that you've got many skills in terms of engineering and building things. But tunnelling underground, I mean, that's proper specialist work. How the hell do you even begin that? Because you're not a specialist underground tunneler, are you?
No, we're not a specialist at anything. I mean, anything I'm actually qualified in is plumbing. We're just winging it. So it's just a case of thinking of something and having a crack at it. And, like everything, you get a bit better at it, the more you do it. How you start something's not necessarily how you end up doing it when you finished it. It's a bit like if you ever tried plastering. The first wall you did would be terrible, and hopefully the 10th or 20th might be something near respectable.
Mind you, I guess the guys from Colditz, I mean, they didn't know how to build an aeroplane.
No, and it's the people that broke out from, I can't remember what the prisoner of war camp was called now, in The Great Escape, but they dug 3 tunnels, and I always wonder if one of them was a lot better than the first one.
Yeah.
But it's also, the thing is, I'm not a practical man, and everybody knows that. But if there are things that I do need to do, I'll find a YouTube video on it. And I'm only talking about things like changing the key in the key fob on my car and stuff like that, right? Nothing like tunneling underground. Where do you find that knowledge from? As you say, you're not a specialist tunneler or excavator. How on earth do you even attempt that? Or is it just trial and error?
It is a bit of trial and error. I think then there is a bit of obviously looking on YouTube to see how stuff's done in certain cases. But I think it's just necessity. There's, often they talk about, kids not being bored now, because it's when you're bored that you learn to entertain yourself, don't you?
Yes.
And I think when you're in a bit of a funny situation, you think, how are we going to get out of this? How are we going to do that? You start to look at everything in a slightly different way. You'll think, well, I know that's a hammer, but, it's supposed to how the claw hammer was made. Somebody was whacking something. I think, well, actually, if I could use it to pull something out, that would be quite handy. And I think that's just what happened with the tunnel. We started digging down, and I used to do it when the neighbours were out, because obviously it made a bit of noise eventually. Yeah. So when they went on holiday or went away for the weekend, we'd be in there with a jackhammer or whatnot. But when it come to doing the sideways stuff, I was like, we can't keep waiting for them to go out because it's going to take forever to do. So we kind of like think, well, hydraulic stuff's quiet. Let's make some sort of hydraulic digging tools, and then we can be down there 24/7 and not disturbing anybody. So it just comes from things like that, really.
And what do they think about it? I mean, well, that's an obvious question, isn't it?
I didn't tell them initially, because so it was generally a secret tunnel. Because I just why worry people? If you're going to dig a tunnel. So the first they knew of it, unfortunately, was when the videos went out. But I mean, like I said, I always try and do stuff in a considerate manner. Do you know what I mean? I don't actively go out to annoy anybody. No. It's far enough away from everybody else's houses to not ever affect their houses, sort of thing. I've made sure of that. Yeah. So. And the neighbour's been down in it, and he was very impressed. He was like, "This is something else. This is." So, but no, and then there's people up the road that walk past, walking their dog, sort of thing. I took this woman down into the garage because she's been walking past, not fully really knowing what we're up to, and I gave her a tour of it yesterday. It literally blew her mind. She was like, "Oh, I can't believe this. This has been going on. I don't know what she thought we were doing, but sort of thing." And she was just like absolutely shocked by it.
No, I mean, I've watched a lot of your videos, and I always kind of think, what on earth must the neighbours think? Because your house is semi-detached, isn't it?
Yeah, got somebody joined on to me, but the person that lives next door is actually joined on. He's at work all day, every day, so he never really gets to see any of it. So I've borrowed his drive quite a lot. Over the last 12 months, but I did say the deal was that I'd put in, I'd redo his whole drive for him, and I must admit it's gone on for a bit longer than what I said it would, so I slightly owe him. But the other neighbours had a new fence because I've redone all the fences, as you'll see in the next video, sort of thing. So I've done everybody else's, so they all match, and I've made them out of steel. So they used to be little wooden post and rail fences, but because I'm a bit of a whiz with the steel, I thought let's make steel ones because then they won't go rotten and they'll just look neater and stuff like that. So I'm doing a bit to try and repay them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But also, I mean, even just in terms of in a world where you need to get permissions to change the windows on your house or, to put that extension out so far. Again, without getting into the technicalities of it, but, you've got building control, presumably, or local council. Do you have to run all this stuff by them?
Yeah, the council, to be fair, have been pretty good with me because it's 3 times now I've started something. They've seen it on the internet and then come round and be like, what the hell's going on? Yeah, it's always been retrospective. Although when I did the bunker in the back garden, I did inquire about that first. Yeah. But that was it was a YouTube project and it had a sponsor. It was sponsored by Sky because of some drama show they were doing. But you'll know what it's like working in telly. They don't make decisions very quickly. So I never put planning permission in for something that might never happen. And then of course, like last minute, they're like, "Yep, gets the go ahead." So then it weren't until like we'd started that I actually said, "Oh right, we're doing this," and then with the process taking along. But the tunnel, I think it weren't until about the 6th video that some guy rang me up and was like, "We've seen this thing on Facebook, like we need to come around and have a look at it." But they've always been really good. Essentially, because it's underground, from a planning perspective, they're not as fussed about it as you'd think, because once it's finished, you can't see it. Because I remember asking the guy when he came in to look at the tunnel, and I remember thinking, this is the worst possible time for someone from the council to come around, because we'd literally just gone under the house and broke up into the pantry, and you could see like the house foundations and all that stuff, just literally going straight across the actual tunnel. And he turned up and I said, "Look, take your council head off now, because they won't tell you when they're there. Like, are you going to pass this or not?" He's like, "Oh, no. Well, you have to put the thing in and then we'll get back to you. Like, Mr. Sit on the fence sort of thing." And I was like, "Come on, take your council head off. What are you looking at? What's your criteria when you come round?" And he kind of said, like, "You're not taking anyone's light. It's not going to look out of character in the neighbourhood," sort of thing. So he said, from that perspective, there's not much we can find fault with it, sort of thing. Building control come out. They've looked at various stuff, but I mean, I don't think underground stuff for them. They've got many guidelines in terms of things and stuff. It's not as strict as other stuff.
They don't have guidelines on the secret.
Well, they do, but it's kind of weird because, like you said about changing your windows and stuff. I mean, if you lived in a Grade 2 listed building, you can't do paint your door a funny colour. They'll be straight round sort of thing. Whereas I think the whole underground thing, it just comes under like the basement stuff, and I don't think basements are as heavily regulated as guttering or something. I don't blooming know. So Just for anyone who doesn't know about this, because obviously sometimes we start talking as if everyone knows what I'm doing. Essentially, I've built an underground bunker in my back garden, and ever since I've done that, I've always wanted to join it to the house. Yeah. So I've started digging a tunnel from a house, but I've linked it to my workshop first, and then I thought, it'd be cool to have the car come up out the front garden, and that's what the garage is. Just in case no one's heard of me, because not everybody knows
it makes total sense now that you know.
That we should explain, because we've started talking about something, and then I suddenly think halfway through a conversation, if they've tuned into this, I've no idea I am, what we're talking about, they're going to be like, I don't know what they're talking about. So, yeah.
So one of my faves of your project is the old 3 Series BMW, which is, basically a hot tub with a barbecue on the back.
Yeah.
Please tell me you still got that car.
I still got it, but it doesn't work anymore because eventually the water did find its way into the electrics. We essentially... I chose an E30 because I love E30s, and I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it to a car which I really love. And I tried to find one which wasn't mint, because there was no way I was going to destroy a convertible E30 that was in good condition. So we found one that was a bit ropey. And E30s, although they're quite oldish cars now, class them as retro, they do have quite complicated wiring in them. There is a lot of wiring. I don't know if you can remember Superman 3, when Lex Luthor built that computer and then the guy gets sucked into it with all the wires. I used to think that's like what behind the dash of the E30s. So originally I was going to try and pull all the wires out of the interior and then run them underneath, but I didn't have enough time to do that, so we ended up just fiberglassing over them. But as time's gone on, it's kind of crept in and got into it, sort of thing. And it kind of runs, but it misses a bit, so there's obviously some shorting out somewhere. But that was a fantastic project, that was, because it just had everything, driving around with the water slopping around. Rick was leaning over the back seat trying to cook burgers, and then I accelerated off and it washed the blooming lot off. It just had it all.
It's a bit where presumably you're on an airfield somewhere, or private land somewhere, and the two of you are driving along, and then obviously you've got the again, you're right, you have to keep stopping yourself halfway through this conversation, because you think if anybody's just tuned in, this sounds completely nonsensical, but the two of you are there and you've got all the foam, all the bubbles all sort of blowing over your face as you're driving up to your midriff in water in an old Beamer. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It was crazy. The thing that surprised me most, though, about the whole project is I took the pipes off the radiator, so the coolant heater system round in the car, and just ran some 15mm copper pipe in a bit of a coil in the passenger footwell as just a bit of a nod to say this is what's going to heat it. Sometimes you do things just to stop the comments, because everybody goes, it's freezing cold. That's not very fun. And I half expected the whole time we were filming it, we'd be in lukewarm at best water. But when we were filming up that airfield, after about 20 minutes, we had to put some cold water in it.
No way,
I was literally, this is getting too hot. And I couldn't believe it.
How cool is that? That's bonkers.
It did work really well.
Yeah. No, clearly. I mean, the other thing that I love, although it looks terrifying to me, is the hover bike.
Oh,
right?
Yes,
the hover bike that you built, which, as I say, is a superb piece of engineering. Where on earth does that come from?
That was just, I remember looking on the internet at some point and seeing a paramotor, I remember thinking I wonder how much power they've got, and seeing that they kicked out about 75, 80 kilograms of thrust. And I thought, Colin weighs 75 to 80 kilograms. Two of them bad boys will lift me off the ground, surely. Yeah. And that was it. And then Ford came to me as a sponsor, and they were, you know what it's like, these companies have these funny slogans, don't they? It's unlearn mobility. And I was like, maybe if we get these two paramotor engines and put them together, do you think we'll be able to float? So essentially I sold them the idea. They paid for the paramotor engines. And I mean, essentially it just wanted to kill you. Every time you got off the ground, it did its own thing. It was just about controllable in a funny way, but the two paramotors would never be spinning exactly the same RPM, so it just wanted to spin round in circles all the time. Yeah. But there was a few times where it was singing the same tune, and it lifted off the ground, but it was terrifying because, like with a motorbike or a bicycle, if you start to go a bit weird, you take your foot off and you steady yourself. But if you took one foot off that, all you did essentially was you'd put more weight on one side and it would just shoot off to the other side, and it was just, I mean, Rick, my mate who filmed it, he had full motorbike levers and a helmet on because, of course, if I crashed it, smashed the propellers into the ground. They just went everywhere. So if anything, he was in more danger than me.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. It was the proximity of those two rotors to either your knees or even worse than that.
There was some polycarb shields, which you couldn't see very well on camera actually because they were clear, and I think most people just didn't notice them. But I mean, even so, it was a risk. So there have been some risks taken over the years, definitely.
I think there've been lots of risks taken with your previous work.
Well, I can imagine. I mean, what must it be like to be to do the risk assessment on these shoots of yours?
Well, we don't have them, do we, Jason? No, do you know what I mean? It's
absolutely, absolutely. do you know what, Colin? What I'm really interested in is what were you like at school? What like as a young Colin? What were you like there? Were you a bit bonkers then?
I would say I weren't completely wappy, if you know what I mean, like uncontrollable, crazy. I was a bit disruptive in class, as you can imagine. Like most of lessons didn't stimulate me particularly. I like the woodwork and things like that. I'd be all right in that. But then it get to the written coursework, and I'd be like, do you know what I mean? You've made a brilliant table and chairs, Colin. Now can you write about it? No. So I suppose you could say I was the class clown. So as probably a lot of people that are similar to me were, I used to kind of get off that a little bit. But I was, I never used to fight or anything or do anything nasty to anybody. So it was just, just messing about.
And so where did the idea come from?
For what? To be a fruitcake?
No, to be a YouTube phenomenon.
Well, I mean, I can say, because I was in it right at the start, because YouTube was 20 years old, wasn't it, like a few weeks back? Yeah. And I joined a year later when there was no money in it. It wasn't a job or anything. It was just a website that you could upload videos. So I used to ride BMX and we used to film that. So that's where kind of the filming part of it come. And obviously I've always been interested in inventing and making stuff. So the kind of two worlds sort of combined and then it sort of grew into what it has done. I mean, my early videos, I didn't build stuff. There was a couple of like little sketches. We had like this one where we had a caravan which we made into a fast food caravan, because I remember coming home from something one day really hungry and there was a bloke in a burger van and I remember thinking if he was in that I could reach out and buy a burger off him, sort of thing. Then we thought that's a good idea, let's do that. So we did this video where we tried to serve people while they were driving. And it essentially evolved from, stupid things like that to like fast mobility scooters and everything that you see now.
Yeah, wasn't there a mobility scooter that would do like 70 miles an hour or something?
Yeah, 82 I got out of it, maximum. And it's kind of weird because the record, I'd set the world record. I was the first person. It was like me that started the record. And I think it's been beaten now. There's some guys, I think in Ireland or something, have done like 120 or something. But the thing that I always noted is they did theirs on go-kart tyres, whereas mine was on the original mobility scooter wheels, which are rated to like 8 mile an hour, and I had like 80 out of it. So,
good Lord.
Brilliant. Okay, so here's a question for you, Colin. You're still a young man, obviously, with an incredible CV of weird and wonderful achievements so far. But even though there'll be many more to date, what are you most proud of so far?
I think I'm most proud of the fact that I don't think I've changed, and I don't think the way I do things has changed either, because a lot of times when you watch people on the internet or on telly, they sort of evolve, don't they? Whereas I've tried to keep to my roots, and it's one of the reasons why I still film myself, still edit myself, is that I think YouTube was at its best where it was a little bit more homemade, and it was kind of championing the person that was doing something amazing at home or with very little. Now, although what has changed, I've got better tools and obviously I've got sponsorship so I can spend more money, but I've tried to keep everything else as relatable as possible, if you know what I mean. Hence why I still do most of the things out of my small shed at the side of my house. I did get a bigger workshop full of bigger stuff, which I was worried about, to be fair, that people would be like, oh, you got all this flash stuff now, you kind of lost it. But I tried to make that seem as relevant as possible, or not too flashy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do, yeah. So, cars. Love of cars. When did that begin? And what was your first car?
Well, my first car was a Vauxhall Nova 1.2 Merit, Mavis.
Nice.
So I don't think it still exists. I checked on the DVLA. You can go and see if it's tax MOT. I think it's gone. It's gone to the scrapyard, I think. So it must be dead. But my first words were car brum brum when I was a kid.
Okay.
So, so I've always loved cars, Matchbox cars and everything. But essentially I had me 1.2 Nova. Had that for about a year, 18 months, and then it's been E30s pretty much ever since.
Okay.
Started off with a 316, which it was a lovely condition car.
Yeah.
But I should have done my research a bit more because I just loved the shape of them, but didn't realise that they didn't have the 6-cylinder engine. It was just a 4-cylinder, which they sounded pretty crap, to be fair.
And they're slow as Christmas, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. But, I loved it. It was my first E30. And then after that, I got 325 Sport. And I've pretty much had that, well, until this present day. But it's not the same car, although they look identical. Because my first one I had for about 6 or 7 years. And then I bought my Toyota Hilux. That's my favourite car. But anyway, I used to maintain the local skate park. And this one Sunday we were supposed to be all down there painting it, and I hadn't got out of bed for some reason or whatever. And Rick was ringing me up like, "Where are you? You've got all the paint." So I jumped out of bed real quick, jumped in my pickup truck, backed off my mum's drive. And I had a fence post in the pickup truck, and you can't fit a fence post in a Hilux without it sticking out on the tailgate sort of thing. And I backed out, and she didn't really have a proper drive. It was like a garden with a bit of grass in front of it. And as I was backing out, this fence post clipped the concrete lamp post on the path, snapped it off, and literally put it straight across the A-pillars of my E30.
No!
So I've got a picture of it somewhere. I was like absolutely gutted. I've written off my own blooming car. But then, luckily enough, like 2 weeks later, the guy up the road from me, who also had one, was selling his. So I bought that, and they literally looked identical. You couldn't tell the difference. And that's the one I've still got today, and is actually being restored at the moment by Yorkshire Car Restoration. So
Before we dig into the car history, I've got a quick bit of mid-show housekeeping to do. If you haven't already, please press subscribe on YouTube so that you never miss an episode, or press the follow button on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts from. So, Colin, where do we go after that then? So that one that you've still got, what follows that? Was it another E30?
No, so that's me E30. And then, like I said, in between the two E30s was my Toyota Hilux, my Mark II Hilux. Still got that. I got that at the garage the other day because it's the first vehicle I drove onto my garage. Yeah, well, I thought if it's going to collapse, Top Gear dropped one off a blooming skyscraper, didn't they? So it will probably survive it.
Yeah.
That's probably like the one that I cherish the most, my Lux. I think that suits my personality. It's like kind of go anywhere, rugged, you can bash it around a bit and it just keeps going. So absolutely love that. Got DeLorean, which is what the garage is being built for.
Yeah.
And that's kind of about it, really. I've got some newer Beamers. I've got a 335D, which as an all-round car is probably the best car I've ever owned. It's economical, it's powerful, and it's comfortable.
Yeah.
So I did get a M3 in the same shape, the F80 one.
Yeah.
But just as an everyday car, it was just rubbish. Like the gearbox and everything, it just wanted to be hammered around a track.
Yeah.
And you couldn't even if you were at a junction and you think, oh, I can go, I'll put my foot down because it's petrol. They have to kind of wind themselves up a bit, and then it would get crazy, and you'd end up fishtailing out the thing, looking like an idiot, sort of thing. And I just thought this thing's just not really very usable as a daily driver. So
they're not relaxing, are they?
No, but I mean, a good fun if you want to hoon around.
Absolutely.
Ticket to lose your bloody licence, isn't it, if you're not on a track?
Yeah.
So when the garage is all fully done, and you said, and we've seen the plans and the models, and the DeLorean's going to go down there, and presumably it's going to be on some kind of hydraulic lift that's going to bring it up. Is that the plan?
Yep, that's the plan. I've semi-designed it in my head.
Like a sort of Thunderbird-style opening, where the car comes out of,
It won't be like Thunderbirds because Thunderbirds don't have to worry about the rain. So they don't have to worry about theirs leaking.
Are you sure about that? I've read some of that. They were deeply concerned about the rain.
You're thinking of that. What's that other one that was puppets that used to be under the sea? Not Joe 90. There was another one like Squid Man or something, wasn't there? No, so essentially if you can imagine the lid and the car thing being nearly the same thing, but it doesn't come up together. So as the lid comes up, the car will come up.
I see. Okay, yeah.
You'll drive the car on and then it will lower down. It won't quite work like that. There will be a little bit of separation between the two. Mm-hmm. And then when it's inside, I want to be able to turn it round as well. So you drive in forwards, it turns the car around, you drive out forwards.
It's got a turntable on there.
It will do, yeah. That's my brief anyway.
Yeah.
That's what I need. For me to have deemed it a success, it needs to be able to be turned round.
And then where does everything else live then? So when that's all done, and then that's obviously the DeLorean underground, then presumably you can put the Hilux on top of it on the actual drive or whatever you're using.
I can fit 3 cars on the drive.
Ah, okay, fine. So 3 on the top and then 1 underneath.
You could get 2 in the bit. I mean, to be fair, if you didn't want to get out of them, you could probably fit 3 in it.
Yeah.
Because obviously you can fit 3 on the top, and it's literally the whole garden has been dug up.
Right.
So you would just about be able to get 3 in the middle. I don't know how you'd get the third one down, though, because of the lift going up. You'd need to pull the first one off, send it up for the second one, and I don't think you'd be able to pull... I don't think there's a space next to it to get 2 cars and then the third one come down. That's that'd be the complication out. So I'll probably put the E30 down there as well once that's finished being restored. So keep it out of harm's way.
Amazing. So out of all your crazy machines, what's been your favourite?
Well, they've all done different things for me. I mean, you'll probably appreciate this with your racing career. If somebody said, what's your favourite race car? There'll be certain cars, your first win, first championship, first, massive crash and stuff like that. And I think, like, my world's fastest mobility scooter was the first thing that kind of got me out into the media.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The jet bicycle I made, which was like a pulse jet on a rally shopper.
Yeah.
That was like one of the things that made my channel grow the most.
Yeah.
Hover bike.
Yeah.
Again, that did wonders for me. So they've all got their own little different nuances. The Dodgem I made with Top Gear, that's like the fastest thing I've ever made, sort of thing.
Yeah.
That was good.
I remember the pulse jet on the chopper. I mean, in fact, me and Dave were having this conversation over a few beers a couple of weeks ago. I had a chopper, and I've got a monster scar on my knee from when I was like 13, 14 or something. If I got one without a pulse jet, like a big scar, how the hell did you get away with? How are you not dead?
I've got lucky a few times, sort of thing. Because in the early days, I don't used to wear any safety equipment or anything, so it was, it was a bit take a few more liberties.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know whether I'm a good judge of risk or because often, obviously, what you see on camera is the best ones for the video, but the first attempt of everything would always be done with helmets and safety gear. And then once I was comfortable with the machine and happy it wasn't going to snap or I was quite capable of driving it, then I'd probably start reducing it, sort of thing. Just, I don't know why, I used to thought it just give the videos that little bit more edge, if you know what I mean. If people were sitting there thinking like, oh God, he's going to, or whatever. Yeah. So, but...
tell me, and if they haven't, I'm going to get onto them because I think they should. Somewhere like Loughborough University should be offering you an honorary doctorate, I think, for all your wild and amazing challenges and contraptions you've made.
I am being given an honorary doctorate actually this year, but I'm not allowed to say who by.
Okay.
So
that's
I think
perfect.
it's got to be kept quiet as to where it's coming from. But
that's
somebody
wicked.
has listened to you.
Good. Oh, that's great. That's great.
So when you were saying before about obviously, you have an affection for all of these different projects and contraptions because they've all done different things. In a way, I suppose it's a bit like your children, isn't it? They're all different, but you can't really have a favourite. But do they all still exist? Do they all still, do you have them all basically?
Yeah,
like
most
the hover
of them.
bike and the Dodgems and stuff, because they're not the sort of thing that you can break up and throw away, are they? Because they've all got sentimental value.
Yeah, I get emotionally attached to everything, like ridiculously, to the point where I've got stuff that should be chucked away, to be fair. But yeah, I've got containers, I've got lockups, I've got space in my mate's barn and stuff where things have kept. But I'd say 90 to 95% of the things that have been built on my videos still exist.
Wowza.
So and all work as well, pretty much. So
what's next on the Furze bucket list, build list, invent list?
Well, I want to obviously get the garage finished. Right. That's all I'm concentrating on at the moment because it's gone on for longer than I don't know why I thought I could do it quicker than I did. I mean, when I look at it now as a room, it's like a massive thing. And I'm like, why did you think you could do this in 6 months, Colin? It was never going to happen in 6 months. But, you got to have ambition, ain't you?
Yeah.
Once I've done that, I probably will return to a few like the vehicles and stuff, a few like old school projects, and then at some point, because the tunnel system has just got one last leg where I've got to go from where it is at the workshop at the moment, it's got to go down the garden to connect to the bunker. So, and then we'll see.
But presumably, is this must all be stuff I can kind of imagine. It's the sort of thing that you lie in bed thinking about, isn't it? Is it the sort of, when you're lying there trying to get to sleep, or you've woken up in the morning and you're thinking about, how do I crack that? How do I make that lift work so that it's waterproof, for example? And how do I do this? And how do I connect that tunnel to the bunker? Is it
totally.
All, because this must be, it's an ever-evolving project, isn't it? And you certainly don't have all the answers before you go into it. You've got to sort of almost make it up as you go along and sort of find solutions.
I think anyone that's ever built anything like a house or anything, you've always got to be thinking 5 or 6 steps ahead, because when you put something somewhere, you think, well, that's all right putting it there now, but is that going to cause problems, when we go to do the roof or something like that? Rick's come in the morning and I'll be like, right, I've sorted this out. I've thought about how we do this last night. You need to do that bit first, put that in, and then bring that through there, or else we're going to get stuck up here, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. I'll sit there going through it. Like I said, I've designed the lift in my head. And then at some point I'll start, sort of like piecing it together and think, right, is that going to work how I imagined it was going to work? And is it all going to, tally up, sort of thing? But yeah.
Are there drawings? Like CAD drawings or
plans?
Plans. Do you know what I mean? Is there stuff like a technical drawing where you... Or even on CAD, dare I say.
There is for the garage, because I got a structural engineer involved, because I started doing it, and then I was looking up at the ceiling and everything, and I was thinking, that's a lot of concrete up there. Yeah. That needs somebody to actually do some calculations. Colin just going, a bit right. So, but most other stuff doesn't have any actual drawings. I mean, I do draw stuff on CAD, because I'll cut stuff out on the laser cutters and the plasma cutters and stuff, but there's never like a 3D model before I start to see how it all works. I mean, in some cases I probably should do that, because you can obviously see whether things are gonna work and stuff. But I do use computers, but they're not my love, if you know what I mean. They do things and you think, why has it done that? And I'll just think, I'll just go and get a bloody saw and a bit of wood and we'll see.
See, I like that way. I like that way. Get stuck in.
I like the analog approach to it, which you sort of adopt a bit like, you know what, let's just give it a go and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, then we'll go back and actually work out something else, or get a structural engineer in to do the calcs. I mean, the one thing that I was thinking, especially with the tunnel and the bunk and whatever, did you used to watch the program Lost many years ago? Because it just reminds me very much of that, with the hatch and then this whole world underneath that. Was that in any way inspirational?
I remember watching that. Do you know what I remember about Lost was, the numbers they had to keep typing in, because if they didn't, something, never found out for God knows how many seasons what would actually happen. I don't think. I think I lost interest with it after about season 3 or 4, because it's like, oh, come on, guys, just stringing it out now. But the numbers were the same numbers as the previous week's lottery numbers, and I was like, did I know that, or is this just a bloody weird coincidence? So I remember thinking like that. That can't be right.
Is that right?
Thought, yeah. And I was like thinking, they haven't filmed that, surely. They've had to change that. That would have
They've not spoken to Camelot, have they?
Exactly. So I just remember thinking, I was like, at the time, because I mean, when did Lost come out? Like 2004, 5, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, the internet was its infancy. I mean, who are you going to tell in 2000, somebody on MySpace? They wouldn't care, would they?
Yeah,
absolutely. But no, it's just the way, as you say, it's just the way that, with your hatch and everything, and you go down, and it's this sort of whole glossy and elaborate sort of underground world, which was much like that was as well. There was this hatch in the jungle, and then suddenly this whole sort of world underneath.
I think it's just a bloke thing. I think there's just something about tunnels and secret passages and hidden bookcases. Just blokes just seem to love it.
Yeah.
Like, because most people that come up to me, I do a show, Makers Central, which is the main show in UK that I do. And there'll be a mass, people come and see me, they say hello, and they're often like, there'll be dudes there with their partners and whatever. And it's always the same story. Like the wife or the missus will have got interested in it because her husband or whatever watches it.
Yeah.
And then she goes, "Oh, I've got roped into this," because he'll sit there in bed watching your videos, and eventually I'll be like, "What the hell's going on?" Sort of thing. And they'll all be fascinated. And it's like, but now he just wants to dig the garden up or something like that. And I'm like, sorry,
it's all your fault.
Yeah,
absolutely. We're now going to relate because of you.
So, and I often, you'll be talking to groups of people, and the women often go like, "What? Why are you doing this?" Whereas the blokes never ask that. They're just like, "How deep is it? Where's it go from?" Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
So, But there you go. Who knows?
It just goes to prove the way that we're wired differently, doesn't it? You know, as if anybody needed to know that in the first place. Right, Colin, it is final question time. This is where we'd like to sort of paint a picture of you disappearing off into the sunset. Normally, right, this is car related, exclusively car related. But for you, right, I'm going to open up from cars to hover bikes or flying saucers or anything else contraption-wise that you want to go out on. So what's your fantasy drive or fantasy journey? Where are you? Where are you going? What are you listening to soundtrack-wise? And most importantly, what are you in or on or wearing?
Like it.
So I was thinking about this, because obviously I know you ask other people. And I think for the music-wise, I started thinking, well, I think a lot of trips are defined by the music that you actually listen to.
Yep.
And sometimes what's on the radio. Because I've had holidays as well. There'll be certain tracks that come on.
Just takes you straight back there, doesn't it?
And you'll be like, oh, that's when we went to Malta or whatever.
Yeah.
That kept coming. Yeah. Every bar we went past would have that on. So I think in terms of the music, I wouldn't want to pick one. I'd just let it be the soundtrack of wherever I was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now, because you might, if you're in Germany or whatever, you might have the radio on and you might have, some weird song that you've no idea what it was. But it's like, oh, this is the German road trip song.
Yeah.
But in terms of a road, I've always quite liked to go to some of the Norwegian roads, to like the ones that cut across all the fields and stuff, or like the ones that go through Utah, through like Zion National Park and stuff like that. So it'd definitely be a scenic road.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the M25 or the North Circular. You can count them out, definitely. And then in terms of the car, what car would I have? I mean, it'd have to sound nice. I don't think I'd have a convertible. I think convertibles, the idea of a convertible is better than actually driving a convertible.
Yes.
So
I would agree with that.
Because either it's too hot, you're burning your head, or you get wind flapping in your ears, sort of thing. I think cruising through town, a convertible's pretty cool. But then I often think like 45-year-old in a convertible, you just look a bit. I don't know if everybody just looks at you and just think, who's this?
Absolutely.
Get away with it a bit more in a classic.
Yeah.
So the old E30 convertible, because I drove that around a little bit before we turned it into a hot tub, and I thought, this is not too bad actually. But Ford lent me a convertible Mustang once as a little bit of a thank you for the hover bike, and it was bright orange as well. I didn't feel very comfortable.
I can imagine.
Like, I'm trying to tell somebody, I've not got something here. So, But yeah, so what car would it be? It probably would be a Beamer or something, I'm not massively into supercars or anything like that. They don't really interest me that much. I think if I ever was to buy one, I'd probably tolerate an Aston Martin, maybe because James Bond's had one, I don't know. But I just feel they're kind of a bit classy. I couldn't drive a Ferrari, I don't think. I just feel like I'm trying to show off too much in a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. And I always think, like, if you're happy and content with your own life and stuff, you don't need to show off.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's all good. So it'd either be a Beamer or an Aston or something like that. And what would I be wearing? I'd probably just have jeans and a t-shirt on. I'm not going to have a tweed suit on or anything like that, and a bowler hat. Pleased to meet you, sir.
We never actually asked it. I sort of phrased that wrongly, because when I said about what would you be in or on or wearing, I was almost sort of thinking about some kind of contraption that might be a.
Oh,
I don't know,
I see.
bit like it. Yeah, it wasn't so much. I'd be in a blue shirt and a pair of primrose shorts. No, it was more that I thought you might have been like wearing a hover pack or something.
I have sort of had like this. I had this one vision once after seeing Hugh McGregor's Long Way Round.
Yeah.
Loved that. Thought that was fantastic.
Yeah.
The first one. The other one wasn't so good. The Long Way Down was a bit weird. Whereas Charlie Boorman just goes, "Oh, and here's my missus." And then Hugh was like, "What? You don't?" Anyway.
Have you seen the other one, The Long Way Up, where they go up from? Yeah,
not seen that one yet. But anyway, Long Way Round, fantastic. And I always thought, like, could I make something where I could get from here to Australia, but do all the sea crossings and everything down in like Indonesia, Micronesia? I remember looking on Google Earth, like, what's the longest bit of water between bits of land? How would I make something? Because when I did the world's longest motorbike, I made it out of a moped, and like we stretched it out. And I remember thinking, like, oh, you could fit like a jet ski engine in this and stuff, And then I saw that guy who basically had like a parachute on his back and then a paramotor on the back of something, and I was like, oh, could you get it to fly as well? So basically make this crazy contraption vehicle that can do land, sea and air, and then try and basically
get to Australia,
ride to Australia.
Mate, that's unbelievable.
So yeah, maybe I'd be in a Honda Sky, Honda 50 or whatever it was.
I'll tell you what I really want to have a go at. Those the jet the
jetpack.
Oh, Richard Browning's jet suit thing.
Oh, I really want to have a go at that.
I'm sure he'd let you have a go, Jason. He's a very nice bloke, and it's fantastic. I think because I had a go on it years and years ago when he just had literally like a wire hanging from a barn over like a grid.
Yeah.
But now he's got like zip lines that you go on and everything. And also I think the actual suit himself it's got more refined, and it's apparently easier to fly now.
Okay.
But it is amazing because in lockdown, because I remember him ringing me up and he's like going, literally, all my events have been cancelled. I'm just sitting here scratching my arse. Like, if you want to come and have another go on it, you're more than welcome.
Brilliant.
So I was like, hell yeah. So I went down and had a crack on it, and I had another day on it, and literally within about 5 or 6 goes, I'd cracked it. And,
oh, really?
And the thing that did it for me, because you're on it and you're concentrating and you're trying to do stuff, but I went down there with the intention of having the Back to Future hoverboard on my feet.
Yes.
And then making it look I was on a hoverboard. Yeah. And we got to the point where I was like, I think I could just about have the hoverboard on now. And as soon as I put the hoverboard on, I was concentrating on looking at the hoverboard and trying to film it. The flying bit just literally it came like second nature, because it was like I wasn't concentrating on it too much. And all of a sudden it just clicked, and I was like, that's weird. I expected to be worse. Now I wasn't thinking about that. But no, you want to have a go on it. It's the noise and everything about it. It's just amazing.
I've seen I've seen quite a lot of videos about it. It just looks insane.
Yeah,
especially if you master it. If you master the skill, I bet it's just.
It is literally like flying.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? How could you ever get bored of doing that? I don't know. Just thinking, I'm just going to go over there and just like.
Well, I tell you what we'll do is I'll get my people to speak to your people. We'll do lunch and we'll go flying.
I'm up for it. I'll have another go on it.
Why don't we go flying first and then do lunch? I think that's probably the right way around doing it.
Actually, yes, you're right. Because I do like a little. I get thirsty at lunch.
I know you do. And they're not quick lunches, are they? I think flying first, then lunch, and then a cab home, I think is the way to do it. And I think on that note, Jason, you need to take us out.
Well, that's it for this week's Fueling Around, powered by Adrian Flux. As UK's largest specialist insurance broker, Adrian Flux will tailor a quote to your exact needs and help save you money on your car, your bike, or even your home insurance. Dave, as always, big thank you to you. But a huge thanks to our amazing, high-functioning fruitcake guest, the one and only Colin Furze. Thank you so much. I've loved it.
Cheers, Jason. Cheers, Dave. Much appreciated.
No, it's been brilliant. Thank you, Colin. Been a pleasure. Don't forget to press subscribe on YouTube so that you never miss an episode, or press the follow button on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Thanks for listening, folks, and we'll see you next time. Ta-da!